Okay, 1, 2, go.
All right. Hello, friends.
Yeah.
We are here. I guess we have been waiting for quite a long time to actually have our pilot. We had a pseudo pilot, but we're
Yeah.
just trying to make it work. But finally, it's done.
Finally, it's here.
Finally, it's here.
I mean, it's funny how setting up like a whole podcast, it takes like a whole long time to
Yeah.
actually happen.
Yeah, definitely.
Like you have like this whole process that you go through,
Yeah.
getting equipment and the whole process. But at some point, you have it ready, and now we're here.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I'm super excited that we can get to do this.
Yeah, I think it was quite a journey. Probably it was the whole of last year. Through the pandemic, we have been talking about, hey, man, we need to start a podcast. And in the process, Joe Rogan is winning big.
Yeah.
And then he's really setting up the standard very high. It's like, okay, if you want to join into this.
Into the whole. I actually think I just think with Joe Rogan is I think what he's managed to achieve in the podcasting world is incredible. Like that is completely unheard of. Like you get one guy who's starting, this whole show, and podcasting itself is very new at the moment. So, but he has managed to take it to a completely new level. Just getting all the conversations actually going, just get people to talk about issues. And it's also such a fun environment. But also on the other side, you have, very highly intellectual people or experts in their field, might be sport or wrestling or art. And he gets all filming and mainly comedy, because he's also a comedian, and he gets all these people together. And for me, there's this platform for conversation. It's just very interesting to think you can bring all these people together and you can broadcast to literally millions and millions of people. And now he's moved on to Spotify. I wasn't a big fan of Spotify, but I download Spotify because of Joe Rogan, really.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why I actually downloaded Spotify, but I wasn't like a big fan. I mean, my music, audios, Apple Music, and that was it. But but it shows you what's possible in this world of podcasting. And I'm going to tell you something that I'm currently working on.
Okay.
On the technology side, which is also very interesting.
Yeah.
But it's really about audio and voice.
Okay.
Being sort of this whole natural way of communicating between people.
Okay.
Yeah. So how have you been?
I've been good.
You're getting married. And
I just want to. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I know you've said you've throw in some gems there, like this audio voice thing. I think let's just pack it and we just come in nicely. Yeah. But I think just maybe on Joe Rogan, what I like the most is how free he is.
Yeah.
He's very free. Everything that he does in terms of smoking a cigar in his podcast.
Yeah.
Most professional broadcasters won't allow you to do that, unless if maybe it's a market. But with them, they just became free. They use their cell phones, and fortunately for them, they have a Google guy.
Yeah,
And then,
yeah.
to bring it back home, because yes, of course, we have to tell everyone that where we are from. We're in South Africa.
Yeah.
All the way in Cape Town, the motherland.
Yeah.
And bring it at home, the number one podcast there is Mac G.
Yeah. No, normally he's actually good. I started looking into him, just when you're talking about the podcast, I started looking into him, and I think he's great. He's doing something completely different. Yeah, more on the side of the celebrities and entertainment.
Yeah.
And I had you'd been in radio for quite a long time, so it sort of helps him getting used to the mic and getting used to. I mean, podcasting is actually radio on steroids. Or radio, a radio platform that almost anyone can on. So
Unleashed.
you can, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you have your own radio, radio platform as a podcast. That's exactly what it is. Without the news, but with sort of this whole communication that's going on. But he is very good from an entertainment standpoint. I think the big thing that's missing at the moment, I think, in the South African podcasting world, is more just the sort of the intellectual conversation. I think there are a lot of really very smart people at different universities and in engineering and building great companies, and most of the time they don't get the opportunity to speak their mind, not just about their business, but sort of their philosophy and how they live their life in a way. So that aspect is, I think is missing. And in America, it was also missing a little bit. I mean, you would have like people like Lex. So Lex is coming up now, and Lex has sort of really completely changed the game. And then I don't know if you know this guy, Mark Huberman.
No, I don't know.
So Huberman, he started the Huberman Lab.
Okay.
He's a biologist. So he started his own lab now as a podcast. So it's a one-man podcast where he explains how the brain works, how the eye. I think he's a specialist on the eyesight. So he basically goes on and on and on as a single-man podcast on there. And it's really getting all these lectures that would happen, let's say, at MIT or Stanford, that the world will never have access to. But now this is is now being broadcasted for free on YouTube. So you can have a full-on, PhD type lecture on YouTube. You can be with him in his lab, and this guy is like a legend at MIT as well. So we're basically seeing podcasting being a platform where you can share all these views about philosophy, about the world, about science in the public domain, and almost anyone can do it. And people love to listen to it, going to work and driving back and forth from work, and audio is definitely becoming a big thing. So we're going to talk about, I don't know if you know Clubhouse.
Clubhouse, no.
If you heard about it, you've been watching a lot of YouTube.
Yeah, I think you just give me the plug.
Yeah.
So I just know about it, yeah.
So Clubhouse is this audio-based platform.
Okay.
It's a very, very interesting audio-based platform where it's like a conference. So you have people just having live audio only conversations.
Okay.
So you log in. When you log in, you can have a conversation with. You start a room, what they call rooms. In rooms is basically a conversation around a specific topic. So you can say, I want to talk about Rolex watches, and then you start a room for Rolex watches, and you can invite your friends into that room. And
I think, does it work like Discord?
It works like Discord, but it's more intuitive in terms of the platform is more user friendly.
Oh, okay.
Because I think with Discord it was more like it was purely, you own a server and all that, which was more just for nerds. But I think Clubhouse is open up a whole platform where you can jump on, and when you can jump on, you have a couple of people that are controlling the crowd. You have speakers, then you have people in the VIP. People in the VIP are people that were invited by the speakers, and then you have the rest of the public, and you can be nominated to come to it's literally like on a conference.
I think I would liken it to Zoom. I would liken it to Zoom, how you can have one person who's speaking and then they have other people, then you can just invite whoever. Since you're the admin, you can always add whoever that you want to add and all that. Yeah.
So the big difference with Zoom and that is you have so think of it, if you're at a conference. At a conference, you're having speakers who are sitting on the chairs in the front, facing everyone, and then you have people that are in the VIP section, and then you have the whole crowd. So the speakers can nominate people that are in the VIP or in the crowd to come to speak. And you can get in there hundreds of thousands of people talking about different topics, and you can get there and just listen. And Elon was on Clubhouse. He had a Clubhouse session when this Reddit, there was a Reddit saga when one of the companies was shorting stocks and all that. And Elon was interviewing, the owner of that company. And it's such a very, very interesting platform. The idea that it's completely audio based, so there's no video. It's only your face on there and your name. And that's it. And your followers and people that you follow, people following you. It's completely audio. And so my thinking is audio is might be a big, the next big social interactions in terms of social platforms. And there's something that I'm currently working on as well that is completely audio based.
Yeah.
And the way I'm looking at it now, that's the future. Because it's more natural just to speak.
Yeah.
Texting was a way that we sort of invented to find ways to communicate, but we are humans, we're people. We engage more comfortably just on audio, just to speak. And a lot of people like send. I don't read voice notes, but a lot of people want to send me voice notes. Okay. So yeah, I don't listen to voice notes, but a lot of people want to send me voice notes. But you can actually realize there's like this whole voice note thing happening, where people just really just enjoy sending voice notes to everyone.
I think that's quite nice to hear. Clubhouse, I would really look into that. And I think the next thing that I would want us to maybe talk about is this is Tech Podcast, everyone.
Yeah.
And we are trying to fill in that gap of that intellectual gap in South Africa mostly. And people need to get to know how South Africa is. People will get to know how Africa is. And people will get to know how we see the world through the eyes of Africa. So we have quite amazing portfolio. I'm sitting next to one of my great, I would like to say mentors. He's an amazing man. And I just want us to, you to tell us who is John Mazanga. And I know I bumped into him when he was doing electrical engineering in a university, but I think maybe let me not do disservice to your profiles, but you can just tell me.
I mean, I think it's a very big question, because I'm also always asking myself, where exactly am I? And that's sort of a deeply philosophical question in terms of not just the name. You can sort of have the name, but I always think a name is sort of a label that is there that doesn't it doesn't really mean much in a way. And when I say it doesn't mean much, is it's a label that's given to you not based on any sort of any achievements in your lifetime, but your achievements give value to the name in a way.
Okay.
So when you think about Elon Musk, you think about something that he has achieved, but when he was given the name Elon Musk, it was just Elon Musk. it didn't mean much. But now, when you think about Elon Musk, because of his achievements give, value to the name.
Yeah.
So I'm always thinking, who exactly am I? I've become so many people, in my sort of intellectual and understanding of how the world works.
Okay.
So fundamentally, I'm very curious about how this machine works. I'm very curious about how the world works. I'm always thinking about, how can I ask better questions about the world?
Okay.
How do I ask better questions? How do and I think that's the meaning of life, really, sort of this capacity to be able to ask better questions. So I'm very curious about the world. I'm very inquisitive. I just happen to be an engineer, which is a field which is more scientific, and where things have to tested, where things are tested, and where things have to work. But I'm very fascinated with engineering and science. I'm fascinated with philosophy in general, just understanding, asking all the big questions. And a lot of people answer these questions differently. But I think it's living by the principle of how do you keep, your heart and your mind open to the big questions about the world. How do you come into the world without any, preconceived notion of what being human means? How do you, add value to other people, which is fundamentally love. So it's open-mindedness and relationships, just making sure that you have meaningful relationships, but you're pushing the boundaries in terms of the questions that you're asking all the time. So when we met, I've grown in my understanding of the world, I think, and I'm always pushing those boundaries to understand the world better, and fundamentally just sort of living in respect and adding value to other people around me.
Well,
So that's
it's quite interesting because for those who don't know, I met John Mazanga in every time I speak this way, this name, like you said, with Elon Musk, and I put that much respect on your name because
yeah.
I would say, watch out, people. John Mazanga is coming.
Yeah.
I would say, watch out. But I met with you at university in university called CPUT, and that's Cape Peninsula University of Technology.
Yeah.
And I guess probably first we were engineers together. I am an electrical engineer, and you're also an electrical engineer. And there was a phase in our life where he was the one who was preaching the gospel to me.
Yeah.
And then it transitioned to John, who was really deep into what's this? Tech, or maybe I knew him as someone who was like a mentor in my consulting. Yes, that's the word I was looking for in consulting. Yeah. And now John Mazanga has his own company, and for me, I want you to just explain that huge evolution. From other people, they might not really understand the intensity of all these things, because I would say, what I've just observed is, in everything that you do, you always put 100%. And with the evolution of who you are now, like you explained, I think you did explain how you are, but I just want you to understand. I just want to understand, like, the evolution, what's really happening in terms of evolution, whether it be curiosity, like how does it?
No, I can explain that. I think So when I left university, it was very, like everyone, you leave university, and I'm a foreigner in South Africa, from Zimbabwe, and you come to this country and you come to study, and then you get the incredible things happen. You meet amazing people. The next phase of your life is getting into the corporate world. So I moved on university, then I moved on to corporate, working for a very small company. It wasn't a big corporate, working for a small engineering company. And I did a lot of very, fascinating and interesting work here in Cape Town.
Okay.
For example, I was very fortunate that the first project that I was involved in was the Zeitmarker at the Silo, at the waterfront.
Okay.
The Zeitmarker Museum is like the first African contemporary art gallery, art museum in Africa.
Okay.
And I was involved in that project as my first engineering project as a professional. And for me, that was like very interesting, because one morning, woke up, switched on the TV, just catching up on news, and Zeitmarker was on CNN, and they're talking about it on CNN.
Wow.
And I was thinking, they actually showed a picture of all the professional engineers were there, and I was part of that on CNN.
John Mazanga.
And I'm thinking, this is incredible, and
Yeah.
I was very fortunate to be part of that incredible project. And then from there, I moved on to a different company, still a very small company. Then I was involved in another art gallery, which was really a huge art gallery, Novo Foundation Art Gallery, which is really one of the best art gallery, I think, at the moment in South Africa, which is quite interesting. So then I moved on from there, and what I was thinking when I was part of this project, towards the end of it, was I sort of knew electrical and electronic design for buildings in and out.
Okay.
I understood this back to front. I understood from your actual high voltage, medium voltage, to basic electronics, fire detection, building management system, all of this in and outs. I understood all of this, and my thinking was, this is not very interesting anymore to me.
Okay.
It's definitely paying the bills, but it's not challenging me intellectually enough.
Okay.
For me to stay here. So at that time, I was thinking, okay, what exactly should I do? I only have a few options. I can either start my own company in engineering, or there's one thing that hadn't happened to me. I hadn't been in like a big engineering corporate company, something like Google or Facebook or these big companies, but the rules there are very different.
Okay.
So I was thinking, what exactly should I do? Should I be part of these huge companies, or should I start my own startup? So that time, in that process, I was like, okay, let me try start my own company while I'm still working for the other company. So I started my startup company at that time, and we built a platform called Sachet. So Sachet was Tinder on steroids. So it was like Tinder for everything.
Yeah, sure. Sure. I remember those days.
Yeah, so it was this idea. It's actually there on Google Play Store right now.
Okay. Yeah.
So it was Tinder on steroids. So you can connect with people, with anyone, but based on location. So if you in real time. So if you want to go out right now, you want to go play tennis, or you want to go to the beach, and you want people within your area to go with. So you feel like doing something, and you want company of people that within a, let's say 5 to 10 kilometer radius. So you could just jump on that platform and do that, which is quite interesting, an interesting platform. Then we started building it. Then there's another company which wanted to invest in our technology, more our underlying technology. So they're like, look guys, this is quite interesting, but we work with kids from 0 to 5 years old. Can you tweak this technology in such a way that it can help kids from 0 to 5? Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, look, I think we can do that. So let's make it happen. So we built this whole platform called Sharing Village, Earthville. It's also on Google Play Store now. Sharing Village, which is like a very sharing based platform. So sharing resources, so you can share resources with people that are within your area on the platform. So if you have an extra, pair of shoes, or if you have some books that you have, or some, crayons or so that you want to give to the kids, you can just get on the platform and post them on the platform, and someone can claim from the platform, and then we will handle the logistics of that. Mm-hmm. So which is what we started working on, and then that's the first time that I got, like, it wasn't a lot of money. It's not a lot of money now, but at that time we got 1.5 million rand investment from this company. And I remember that time when I got that money.
Is it coming into your bank account or the business?
The business bank account, but okay. I had the bank card.
Okay. Yeah.
I had the bank card. So I'm there.
See three values, 6 values.
Yeah, I'm seeing 6 values there. And, what I thought was that, okay, it's actually quite easy, right? To have a lot of money in your bank account, that's not the problem. That's very easy. Okay. That can happen quite easily. And for me, it was like a break into, okay, this is quite easy. What is difficult? And what was difficult was building. You have a mission. How do you actually stick to your mission? So the first thing that we did wrong at that time was moving our game plan, because there was money that was promised to us. I think today, if we had focused on Sasha and not derail ourselves from Sasha to Earthville, we could be way ahead right now.
And I think Sasha happened before Tinder, I guess.
Yeah, no, Tinder was there, but Tinder was actually just starting out.
Yeah.
So it was actually starting out, and at that time we could have been very successful if we just stayed on, and Sasha itself was evolving into a completely different platform than we thought.
Okay.
Because initially we were basically saying it was more about, you can connect with people that love what you do. Then we realized that when we launched the platform, a lot of people were now using it mainly for parties. So people would start a party. I have a party at my place. I have a party here. I have a party here.
Yeah.
Then you invite a lot of friends to the party, and then when they are at that party, they can post pictures. They can start sending text and all that, and only people that are in that local environment will be able to see what's happening at that party. So people within 10 kilometer radius would see what's happening at that party. So and on Facebook now they've added this sort of the location-based feature as well. By that time there wasn't really that location-based feature to basically understand what's going on around you in that aspect. But we're very young, and we could be derailed very easily, moving from one project to another project, and you don't actually focus on what you have to do, which was a good learning curve. So that was one aspect, just being focused. And then the other part was also um, uh, a company is as strong as its people, right? So a company itself, it is, a group of people with a vision,
Yeah.
and they have skills to accomplish that vision. And there is a market for that vision, right? There is a market for that vision. So, but it starts with people. And at that time, I had partners and people that I was working with, very, very interesting people, very brilliant people. But it's also like at that time, you don't know how to deal with people. You don't understand personalities. So some of the times you run into challenges where, someone can come there and, what exactly do they want by being part of this team? And you have to understand that, because no one is just doing anything for free, for no reason. So there are some people who want shares in the company. There are some people who just want to get paid for the work they do, because they have to pay the bills. And different people have different levels of commitment. So they always say, if you're going for breakfast, a chicken can bring the eggs.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Chicken bring the eggs. A pig, what does a pig bring?
Bacon.
It brings bacon.
Yeah.
Right. The commitment that a pig has, and the commitment that a chicken has, it's different.
Too different.
Right? So if you have bacon in the game, it's very different to someone who has just eggs in the game and is a chicken.
Yeah.
So those levels of commitment are very different, and those dynamics have to be understood. So someone is bringing the bacon in. They are in it 100%. Someone is bringing the eggs in. But it doesn't deplete anything from their life. They're doing this for fun, or they're doing this for just to have a good time. So understanding people and those dynamics for me was a big learning curve. So we ended up really, just building that company, and we ended up selling that whole platform. The underlying software, we ended up selling it. And then I was like, okay, cool. This is quite challenging. This is hard.
Just to get the background of the story.
Yeah. So
are you the one who is the CEO of this Sville and such at the time?
Yeah. I'm basically the one coming up with all the ideas.
Okay.
I'm basically coming up with, the whole vision.
Yeah.
All the ideas. I'm the one who's basically starting it, and I have to go out there and look for people who can help me build it.
So maybe we might as well just delve into this one, right?
Yeah.
To say that how is it like shifting your mind from being an employer to now being an employee to now being an employer? And like I say, in that it was quite difficult, as you explained about the bacon and the bacon and the eggs.
Yeah.
How does that now? What kind of managerial skills do you need, or did you train for yourself to just maybe at least run the company that way?
I think even before we get to that point, right? So I got there, started the company, and then we did all of that. Then from there, I moved on into big corporate.
So were these your friends, or was this people that you knew?
So all of this. So some of them were friends. Some of them were people that I did not know at all, that I had to bring in. Okay. It wasn't completely hiring. It was because it is a startup, right?
Okay.
It's a startup, so you don't have you don't have an office. So so we had to work from my home where I stayed was actually the office. So we literally had to work from there. Just need a Wi-Fi and laptops, and just make sure that you have all of the things that you need. So which was firstly, you need to be able to communicate your vision very clearly. And that's leadership, right? You need to be able to get there and communicate where this bus is going.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're building a startup, it's also very tricky.
Okay.
Because you also don't know where this bus is really going, right? Almost everything is a moving target.
Okay.
So you can have this big vision. We want to, let's say Facebook, right? We want to connect the whole world. And I don't think Mark Zuckerberg knew exactly what this actually meant.
Mm-hmm.
And which is very different between how companies were built back in the day and how companies are built right now.
Okay.
There are companies that are being built right now that never existed before. This is a completely new idea. You're building TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
What exactly are you building, right? So you have to get in there. Oh, I'm building a platform where people can post videos, and these videos will be funny and all that. And when you think about that platform and what it then later becomes, it takes a life of its own. And so as much as you have to communicate the vision, you have to be with people that are flexible to trust you when the vision is changing. Because you're going to pivot a lot of times. Mm. So one day you're like, we're building this feature, that the next day you realize, oh, this feature doesn't work. So, we're not going to do this feature anymore. But you have to be able to communicate your vision very well. And then you have to be able to understand people. Why do these people want to be involved in this project? And at that time, especially with startups, it's not even a company, right? It's a project. You're working on a project. Mm-hmm. You just want to build something, all right? It's a project. It's not a company.
Yeah.
It's not registered, or it's not. I mean, I hear a lot of people saying, I want to register my thing. It's very interesting, but I don't think you have to register a thing until you have a working project. Mm-hmm. That is some sort of proof of concept. Mm-hmm. That is an interest in, on the market.
Yeah. That
people love it, and you have customers and people love it. Then only after that you can build a company, because registering a company, building a company, it comes with other responsibilities. But if it's a project, it's very different. So which is sort of the dynamics of people and understanding tech, because it's a technology company. Mm-hmm. So you definitely need to understand what you are doing fundamentally from a technology standpoint.
Okay.
You can't you can fake that, right? You can fake the technology side, because if you're building a platform, it has to work. Mm-hmm. So the technology side has to work, the people side has to work, then the money side is a whole completely different world on its own. Yeah. But if you have something that works, and you have customers, then that will definitely work. Mm-hmm. So which is that, but that was that phase, and then I moved on to corporate, big corporate. Mm-hmm. Big corporate, very different dynamics altogether. The rules are different. The rules are already set. People have to follow specific things, because you are literally organizing thousands and thousands of people with the same principles and the same standards in that company.
Yeah.
And for me, that was fascinating, how you can have a vision that thousands of employees, thousands of human beings can buy into.
Yeah.
And big corporate, there's a way to do that, and there's a way to manage that across
the whole thousands of people.
There are thousands of people.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot in terms of structure in big corporate. Just the way, the dynamics of making things work. Mm-hmm. Just putting the structure in place. Email services. How do we make our ways of operating efficient? Mm-hmm. The digital platforms and all these things. So I learned a lot in corporate on those aspects.
So this is a build up to the evolution of from the small company to the bigger company, which is not as big.
Yeah.
Where you even start your
company. Yeah. So sort of a build up from purely academics. Mm-hmm. To working for a small company, but working on big projects.
Yeah,
and then running a side gig, which was quite successful, and then from there moving from there into big corporate.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then from big corporate, completely moving into where I am right now, which is, completely running a business.
I think that excites me a lot.
It
really does.
so which is like a whole,
Yeah.
it's sort of a whole evolution.
Yeah,
That
I think you were still explaining on the big corporates in terms of how they run things and the email systems.
Yeah.
Like what then now would you say that you have learned a lot from the big corporates, which probably is making you a better employer now, or where you are now? Like what are the things that they learned?
I don't know if it's making me a better person. I don't know if it's helped me at all in day-to-day implementation of things, but what it does is, it just helps you understand how other people operate. Even if you're not going to follow their route, it just helps you engage them on a different level.
Okay.
So, for example, if you're dealing with a company that is a big corporate and that is your customer, now you know how the decision-making structure looks like in a big corporate. That in a big corporate, it's not one person making a decision. It's a lot of people making decisions. So if you have to go to a big corporate and they're your customer, you have to lobby almost it's literally like you are a politician. You are like, the president or whatnot, and you have to pass a bill. You're a politician or you're a senator, and you have to pass a specific bill, which means you have to lobby all these other politicians in there to be able to support you and vote for this bill.
Are you now talking about the boardroom?
Yeah,
Where you now have a boardroom.
yeah, exactly. So,
Yeah.
so that when people get into the boardroom to make a decision,
Yeah.
if one person in that boardroom says, I don't think we'll go with these guys, man, then whatever you're selling to that corporate is gone.
Okay.
It's not going to pass. So there is sort of a decision-making structure that is in corporate that is very different from a decision-making structure in a startup or in a small company where one person is making the call. And if that person believes in that, in that product or in that service, then they just make a call.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of red tape, which is, there's a lot of structure in corporate. That's why a lot of people don't like corporate, because there's too much structure. It's too much rigid. Growth, there's minimal growth in corporate. There are resources that if you're driven, you can grow. So they have resources that if you're driven, you can grow. But in terms of implementation of what you're not very flexible to implement any sort of new idea that you know. And I'm not, I don't like being boxed in. I don't like following specific structure and rules and all that to say this is how we do things. I need to make things work.
I think you said fundamentally, I'm very curious.
Exactly.
The moment you bring boxes into someone who's very curious and just want to break all the boxes and become open-minded. Yeah.
Exactly. So I definitely want to break the rules and to basically break the rules and come up with new concepts and do completely new things. The advantages and disadvantages to that. All right, because if you want to break rules, you're going to fail a lot, and you have to be comfortable with failing a lot.
That's because you're a pioneer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you have to be comfortable with failing. So you have to start one company and it doesn't work, and if it doesn't work, then you have to move on to the next thing without that diminishing, your passion, without that, really diminishing your creativity. You learn from there, that you basically pick all the lessons, and it depends on what's important to people. So for me, intellectual capabilities is very important. Am I a better person after this? For me, that's key. Am I a better contributor to a civilization at this point? That's important. So when I look at my path in terms of growth, it's really judged on that metric. Am I becoming
better
a better
person.
person that
Yeah.
can add a bit more value to the world than I could yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And the best way to do that is to have a better, information processing system, which is a better brain. That's the only way we know at this moment that you can give value to the world.
Yeah, that sounds funny. A better brain.
You know,
Yeah. I hear you.
you want a better brain.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is, which is where you want to be. You want a better brain. You want to become better. You want to improve. That's the only way that you can add more value. So that's when I look at this trajectory. That's what I'm looking at. From this level to this level to that level to that level. It's not levels in terms of let's say increase in wealth in a way.
Okay.
It's levels in terms of my
It's more personal than.
it's personal.
Yeah, it's like personal goals that you have set.
Yeah.
You have your own standard of what you call successful.
Success in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what governs you to go for certain things that you have. And I think maybe just to touch on on curiosity. Is it something that you've always been like being curious, or is something which 'cause I have some few like theories in terms of I feel like we are all born with something, and we have quite a pool of gifts, but it depends on what you really nurture.
Yeah.
So in terms of curiosity, was it always been, you have always been curious at a very young age to this point, or is it something which the curiosity came after some time, or can you have like a path where you, okay, I can see that ever since I was young I've always been curious up until to the point that you are in now?
Yeah, I mean it's one part. If you there's a book called The Blank Slate.
Okay.
Right, I think it's Steven Pinker, and
Blank Slate.
Blank Slate. Yeah.
Okay.
It's this argument that are we a blank slate, which means are we born without anything, and then best depending on the environment that fuels us or that allows us to move in specific directions. All right. So if you grow up in an environment that allows you to do specific things and all that, you end up moving in the direction.
Yeah.
So it's really all these questions like are leaders born or they're made? Are engineers born or they're made? Are scientists born or they're made? So it's a very deeply philosophical question.
Okay.
But but ultimately, you cannot deny, and you'll probably get in trouble with saying some of that, but things you can actually not deny that there is something fundamental genetic.
I wanted to say that you cannot deny biology.
Right, you cannot deny biology.
Yeah.
So there is sort of some kind of genetic influence on the direction that someone would take, and that's really things about, let's say, your understanding of, let's say, mathematics, right? Or or your curiosity towards academics or stuff like that. So and I can only this is very subjective. It's not objective, right? I can only speak for myself. That when I was a kid, I loved mathematics.
Okay.
I just loved it, and I was very good at it. I did not struggle with it.
Okay.
And I always thought, why do people struggle with numbers? This is so easy.
Okay.
Because I remember when I was like probably grade 2 or grade 1 or grade 2, and I'm being invited to a grade 5 class to basically show them, because the teacher was very frustrated. So the teacher came through, took me, it's like, John is in grade 1 and he can solve this. If a grade one person can solve this, how
How
come you
about you?
do that? And they still
Yeah.
gave me, with this blackboard,
Yeah.
with a chalk. Got there, started writing all of this, and got it right. And the question was, if John can do this, how come you guys cannot do that?
Yeah.
So, but I did not struggle, right? It wasn't even an effort.
Okay.
It was natural. I'm being careful in terms in saying it was natural, but it felt as if it was natural to me.
Okay.
So, that's that part, that there are aspects that you are sort of naturally inclined towards than others. That there are other people are like very, physically, flexible. They can dance quite easily. They're just flexible in that way, and they end up being, Michael Jackson. Some people can just sing quite well, and they end up being, wherever that celebrity is, who can sing very well. So there is basically that part, but there's also the part of how your environment. So I think it's like all things. Like fundamentally, you have the biology.
Yeah.
Then at the next level is basically the environment.
Yeah.
So the environment that you would grow up, it also cultures you to move in a certain directions. And I'm a firm believer that the environment ultimately is the greatest contributor to, the destiny or the path that someone is going to take.
Environment will be society.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's basically society. It has a massive influence on what a person will become. This is not to say that you can be whoever you want to be, which is sort of a motivational speaker mantra. You can be whatever you want to be. That's not true. That's not true. You have to understand yourself and what you are inclined, what your natural inclinations. You have to understand them. Once you understand them, then there is sort of, you have to allow yourself to be in an environment, if opportunity allows, to be in an environment that allows you to do that. So when I grew up, my dad was an academic, so he was like, when he passed on, he was like doing his PhD in something, purely an academic. So he had like this big library. And I remember when I was a kid, I literally read the whole library. I would take all the books, novels and whatnot. I would read literally everything in there. But I wasn't even worried about going out there to play with other kids. I didn't care. As long as I have books, I was happy. I was happy with books. So I'd get there, I'd read every book that's in there. He was writing his papers for his PhD, and I remember reading his papers for PhD and thinking, this guy is wrong. I don't agree.
Okay.
But for me,
this is when you were still young.
Yeah, I was in primary school, yeah.
So you're quite brilliant from...
I was in primary school.
Yeah.
I was in primary school. And I have my cousin. She's also quite brilliant.
Okay.
She's like my best friend now. She's quite brilliant. She just finished her master's last year with a cum laude in Europe.
Nice.
And she got there. She ended up doing engineering as well. Super brilliant, awesome. And she used to like read newspapers at like grade 1, grade 2, and all that. And we used to write each other letters about what the stuff that we had read and stuff like that, what's going on, what's happening, and all that. Beautiful letters. I was reading about this. I don't think this is what they're doing is right, and all that. We started engaging on that level very early on. But it's also because the environment allowed that to happen. It wasn't forced onto us.
Yeah.
It was just the environment allows that to happen. So there is that aspect of you are genetically inclined towards something, and then you have another aspect where the environment allows you to move in a certain direction, which is the society, but it is also parenting, which is why I'm a big proponent of, wherever we leaders in society, they have the responsibility of creating the environment that allows what they think at that time will be the greatest contributor to the future of the world. So they have to sit down and think, what do we think is important for the future? Once they do that, they have to, and this is not politicians. This is ordinary parents who are leaders. This is religious leaders. This is academic leaders. They have to sit down and think, what is the future? What do we want the future to look like? How do we create an environment that enables the future to look like that? And that is what great countries do. That is what successful parents, really parents do. They look into the future and they have to sit down and create that environment today. So I hope that sort of answers the question of, what actually contributes.
No, it actually does, because there's a thing of family businesses.
Yeah.
And there's things which are inclined within a family.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we don't have that tracking. It's one of my biggest ideas, that at least let's write down what is happening within each and every family member. Just writing down, okay, my dad used to play a guitar. When my great-great-grandson finds that, my great-great-grandfather was playing a guitar and I'm finding myself loving a guitar.
Yeah.
I mean, that it gives them a easier compass of saying that, hey man, don't try to cook, because in your inverted commas, in your family line, we don't have people who cook.
Yeah.
Definitely you can work on the skill, but man, stick to this one, because this you are more inclined to. There is a library of knowledge within your gene.
Yeah.
That you can just easily get this thing very fast.
Yeah, I mean it's a good argument. However, one way to think, or one other way to think about it is also, when you're thinking about, let's say, communities and societies, it's really becoming very, very different now.
Yeah.
As compared to back in the day when you're living in, your small village and you're in your own small circle. If when I was a kid there was Facebook and there was Instagram, I don't know what I could have become. I could have probably become, the library of knowledge that I had was my father's library. That is the library of knowledge that I had, and he was an academic and an English educator, and I was inclined towards that. I could communicate English properly because he was there and he was good at that and all that, right? But it's because the successful person that I knew at that time was my father. So I was limited to that scope. And right now in the future, it's going to look very different. We cannot really box kids anymore to just the family. And when I talk about the environment, it's not just the environment as a physical environment, but it's also mainly, even now, more so, online communities that all these kids actually start to grow up in. So if you grow up in a specific online community, you get inclined towards, specific capabilities and all that. And the jobs of the future, or how people are going to, add value to the world in the future, how would we know? Right. YouTubers making hundreds of thousands of dollars, podcasters, all of these, influencers, online influencers, all of these are new careers that we never even thought about back in the day. And really, our kids are going to move in a very different direction than we can ever think of. What we can teach them is not what to actually become. What we can teach them are the fundamental principles of allowing themselves to be open-minded to the world, and to be curious about how the world works, and to be super learners. They have to be incredible at learning new skills all the time, reinventing themselves, because that's what's required in the future, because everything is changing. So for you to be relevant, you have to be able to learn about new aspects of the world almost every day. And I'm very fascinated by how much I don't know about the world, and when I see something new, like this past week, I was excited about NFTs.
All right.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know about NFTs. So.
NFTs.
Yeah.
I thought you said EFTs.
No, like NFTs. Yeah.
Okay.
So NFTs are like they call them non-fungible tangibles.
Okay.
So this is the idea of back in the day, even now, you have people selling art. So if you're a painter, you have an art piece and you sell it. This art piece is, they are fake, pictures, art drawings of, let's say, Mona Lisa. But the actual original Mona Lisa is the one that's very expensive, because it's probably one of that in the whole world. That's one Mona Lisa that's out there. So that's what makes it expensive, because it's only one. It has an identity, which is it's only one Mona Lisa in the world.
Yeah.
Or one piece of something that Picasso did. It's like it's expensive because he did it, and it's also very scarce. So it's not just you didn't make any copies of it.
Yeah.
And with the internet, it became very difficult for you to have exclusive, right? Because if you do a song, that is your song, it's an original song, but you can make multiple copies of that song, and put it on the internet. So the value of that, because you can make too many copies of it, goes lower and lower and lower and lower and lower. And with non-fungible tangibles, they basically use blockchain technology to attach a stamp and a signature to a specific art creation.
Okay.
So if you do a digital painting, you can attach a signature, which is like a blockchain, they call them keys, a key to it, so that you only have, let's say, you can say I only have 5 of these, and people can verify if this is a true piece or this is a copy.
So are they now overlooking screenshots?
So if you take a screenshot and you say, oh, I own this, right? People can verify that, oh, no, that's not the original one.
Okay.
And they can see who has the original one.
Does that now brings in the technology of 4K or whatever technology? Like, it does the picture, is it a digital picture?
A digital picture, yeah.
So does that mean the pixels are like very high?
No, I mean it can still have the same pixels, right? But you should be able to digitally verify that this is the real one.
Oh, okay.
So it's not about the value of the thing. It's the idea that I'm the one who owns it. So for example, if you think about, let's say, a Picasso painting, right?
Painting, yes, yeah.
It's not like that's difficult to create to be painted by another painter. So another painter can look at that Picasso thing and create a copy of that, right? They can easily do it if they're good, but they can easily do it. So they can create that whole Picasso. But the idea that you have this the original Picasso. That's what makes that Picasso expensive. Or the original Mona Lisa, that makes that. You can make many copies of it.
I think I would liken it to softwares in our pieces.
Yeah.
What you're saying, like you can have like an Adobe Photoshop, where when you purchase it with a keypad, that
Yeah,
key that you
yeah.
have to type in, and they tell you can only use it to 5 pieces.
Yeah.
But when you try to put it on the other one, you start having problems.
Yeah,
I think probably
yeah.
they use a similar.
Yeah. So this is sort of a blockchain thing, but it's the idea that you can verify it. So you have this whole blockchain network where you basically add this piece onto the network, and you say there are only 5 pieces in the network. We know there are only 5 pieces in the network, right? So if someone tried to add an extra piece there, then everyone in the network will be able to see that this is not the original one. So the value of that piece in the network goes. It's actually rejected. It's actually rejected in the network.
Yeah.
So it's the same in the art world, but it wasn't possible previously with digital creations. So that's, for example, now Jack Dorsey, I think it was like $250,000 his original tweet. So the original tweet that he sent out, which was I'm setting up my Twitter, something like that. That original tweet, the original one, not the copy, the original one is worth $250,000, which is a digital tangible, non-tangible asset. It's worth 250,000. So someone can go then buy that tweet, which is worth 250,000, and they can say, I own Jack Dorsey's first tweet ever.
I think we are becoming very smart in making money.
I own that.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
It is also, once you understand that whole aspect, that what we call value in terms of the money, in terms of money, is actually a game, right? It's a game.
Okay.
There is the utility aspect of that. You need food to eat, then you're going to buy it. But after that, most of it is games that actually happens on the market. So if many people agree that this is special, even though it doesn't have any utility, then it becomes special.
Yeah.
Right?
That's true.
If many people just think, oh, this is beautiful, right? Then the value goes up. Which is the thing with, let's say, art. Like, who decides that this art piece, this painting, this paint on a canvas is worth so many millions? It's because we all agree that this is special. And that is really the mechanics of value. That we all agree that this is special, so it becomes special.
So we can decide that gold is no longer special.
Yes, so we can decide that. We can decide. I mean, that's Yuval Harari. So Yuval,
yes.
So Yuval Harari talks about all of these things, and he mentioned money itself as a story. It is fiction, but it's not real. What is money? It is. I mean, if you go to monkeys, monkeys do exchange, right? Do like exchange. I'll give you an orange, you give me a banana.
Sure.
If another monkey goes to say, "Oh, I'm going to give you a leaf, and you give me a banana," the monkey will say, "No, I cannot eat the leaf. Right? Give me something that I can use, right? Which is barter trading. So barter trading was I give you a hoe, you give me a knife. Then we're trading value, right? And the moment you move on from there to fiat currency, which is now, okay, cool, this pepper is now worth $100. This pepper is now worth $100. I'm going to give you that pepper, and you're going to give me your T-shirt. You're going to give me you're going to give my T-shirt. But that's on the promise, right? That's on the promise that we all agree that this pepper is worth that amount. So which means you can take that pepper, and everyone in the network agrees. So you can take that pepper and go to someone else in the network and get whatever you want.
So we basically did the NFT. It's now the digital side of the bartering.
The actual bartering side of things. So I mean, it's the same thing with money, right? Come to you. Oh, you want to buy yourself food. I have a T-shirt that you have a T-shirt, but you want to buy food.
Yeah.
So I want a T-shirt. So I'm going to give you money. Right? I'm not going to give you food. You want food, but I'm not going to give you food. I'm going to give you money.
Money, yes.
But you are going to take my money. You want food, right? So you're going to take my money on the condition that you understand that with that money, I'm going to get some food.
Get food.
The guy that has food believes that this is something of value.
Yeah.
So which means money is only money when everyone in the network, believe that is valuable. So it is a story, and one of the most powerful stories ever told, fictitious stories ever told in the history of
humankind.
Yeah. We believe in money. We're money believers. Right? We believe in it. All of us in the network. There's a joke that was told that, the guys in the Middle East, they started bombing, some places in America, and they'll bomb everything. They'll ban American flags, but they'll keep American dollars.
But right? You always keep
American dollars.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So as long as they hate everything about America, they disagree about everything about America.
Yeah.
They agree on one thing: American dollar has value.
Don't bend that paper.
Don't bend that paper, right?
That paper is a lot of value.
Right?
Yeah.
So we are believers, in that story. So once we understand that this is not real, but it's a story that we all believe, then we look at it with sort of a different, with different eyes altogether.
So does that mean that this game, because I mean, in a sense, when you're talking about money, I was just thinking of a Bible verse which says, "Money answers all things."
Yeah.
So do you liken it to say that, okay, if we have believed so much in this, then where does the actual value, like I think one of the things that you said that's very fundamental into interaction with other people is it's love.
Yeah.
How do we now marry the value of money and the value of love? Because now, as much as you have money, you always hear the stories that, okay, you can have all the money in the world, but if you don't have someone who loves you, you have nothing. So how do you now play around with these two big, I would say it's big stuff, because in a sense they have a similar way of affecting people. So how do you see them between money and love?
Yeah, no, I mean there is the Western and the Western philosophy, which is infiltrated most of the world, and the Western philosophy is really founded on the American dream.
Okay.
And the American dream is a capitalistic dream.
Okay.
Which is capitalism, right? Which is every man every woman has a right to own property,
Okay.
which is some portion personally on property, which is personally some portion of the market. So you can own a piece of that market. So if our market is worth 1 trillion, you have a right to own a portion of that $1 trillion market. And you get people now on the race where who is going to get the biggest piece,
Okay.
right, of this one market. And people live their lives chasing to get a bigger piece. So this person, now I have a bigger piece. Now I have now a bigger piece. This person is bigger. This is not the richest person. So it's not. So people are on this race to own the bigger piece
Okay.
of the market. That's really capitalism, and there are beautiful things about that because it as long as the rules are fair, it creates good competition in that market that allows innovation, that allows people to create more and more things, more and more sophisticated things, and push the limits of innovation and all that, because the market will reward those who, if the rules are fair, the market will reward those who actually produce real value in the market.
Yeah.
Right. That's capitalism, but that's not what the whole world looks like. Right. There are parts of the world which do not value capitalism. They, you get socialist societies.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. That some people, they appreciate socialism more.
Exactly. Some people value the idea that the nation states should basically own property and make sure that they take care of the people. So the government owns the property, and the property that's communism. It's almost a failed system, but it is a system. There are people who believe in that system. And there are people who are just like, okay, we're going to share all our resources, right? It's more, like a Confucian, by Confucius, so it's like a Confucian philosophy. We are going to share everything we have in the whole society, and all of us, we can share. If you make that, share with me. If you find that, share with me. If you do that, share with me. It's a different philosophy, right? So there is different philosophies in different parts of the world. They value different things. So there are parts of the world where they value, let's say, intellectual capability more than other places.
Okay.
Other places might lesser value beauty. Other places might lesser value freedom. Other places might lesser value family. And all these are very different philosophies in terms of what exactly do you put more value on. So there is the path. I would talk about subjectively what I think is important, right? What I think is important is this sort of intellectual journey.
Okay.
That once you understand that this whole system that we live in is a giant information processing system. It's a giant information processing system.
Yeah.
With agents, and these are human beings, the animals, and all that, and all these agents are information processing systems within a giant information processing systems, and they're still interacting with each other. And then fundamentally, if you go down in their bodies, it's an information processing system, which is a nervous system that interacts in that network on that level.
Yeah.
Right, but ultimately it's a giant information processing systems, and they're sort of organisms on every level. Whether you go on it fundamentally on like a gene level, and you go on the whole complete human being, and you go on the interactions between human beings, or you go through groups of human beings interacting with other groups of beings. The ones that survive longer and the ones that because it's it's sort of a Darwinian mechanism where survival of the fittest, right?
Okay.
The ones that survive longer are the ones that ask better questions, always pushing the boundaries. Right.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that survive longer. They start asking better questions. Right. They start asking better questions, and these better questions are more or less aligned in one aspect, which is sort of the physical theory, which is how we live in how we interact with the physical world.
Okay.
And then sort of the information sort of the information theory, which is how we basically communicate with each other. And this goes into culture and all these things, that communication, which goes into things like freedom as well, which is going into, which is like a big thing now in the world.
Yeah.
Like, are we equal? Are we not equal? Are men and women equal? Or,
it's a big conversation.
Can you be, any, can you be any sex that you want? Are you LBGTQ or Z? Are you that? But it's a questions of this. All of these are questions about, it's an information theory. How do we interact? How do we transfer information? What is our understanding of the world? And we have to keep on asking better questions. We have to keep on asking. If we have to survive as a species, we have to keep on asking all those better questions.
Yeah.
And at every stage, once we ask this question, our value system evolves.
Okay.
Whenever we ask another question and we sort of get an answer, our value system evolves. Things that we value at every stage in our evolution changes as individuals and as a society. When you were a kid, the most important thing to you was, my dad has to bring a sweet. Right? Oh, when he comes back from work, she'll give me a sweet.
Yeah.
That's so important to you. Or you're playing soccer with other kids and your ball is like your world. My ball, this is mine. I'm the one that made it. That's important to you. That's valuable to you at that level.
Yeah.
When you move on to the next level, different things become important. So at some level, other things become more important than other things.
Yeah.
And that's the evolution. But we have to keep on asking all those better questions. The individuals, or as a species or organizations that ask better questions than others, then they somehow survive. They somehow survive longer than really the other ones.
In a way, they also become capitalist.
No. It's not. I mean, we cannot say they fundamentally become capitalist. With capitalism, it's a system that we have that seem to somehow have worked better in the past, 100 years or so. All right, but we're still a young species. We don't know if this is the best way to go. If this the way to do is the best way to do things. We know right now it has been a successful way, but not very successful, because now you have, the rich, some people are very rich, and some people are, getting very poor. And we, somehow, people have this idea that, it's just going to trickle down economics. It's just going to come from there. If, the person at the top is like a lot of water and they pour that water, the more water this person has, the person at the bottom then will get
drops.
Like better droplets or something like that. So give the person at the top more, more water, and he's going to pour it, and it's trickle down. It's trickle down economics. If this guy had 20 liters of water at the top, then this guy will probably have one drop. If this guy is 40 liters now, this guy will get 2 or 1.5 drops.
Yeah.
So it's a system that we've created. But is it a perfect system? It's not, right? We all know, we can all agree that it's not. It's the best system that we have at the moment, of course.
Okay, I think maybe we can conclude on this one.
Yeah,
it's quite, I think I might have just realized that I like philosophical questions.
Yeah.
And maybe we can just stop it on this, and when we meet some other time, we
Yeah.
can just maybe continue from there onwards.
Yeah.
Is how I know it's a very difficult question, but
Yeah.
I know you can just make some few justice on this one.
Yeah.
Then how, looking at what you just told me now, how do we now introduce love to make a better system, that whether to improve the system that we are having now or to radically change the system that we already have now? So it's either we improve through love. That's if you agree with me that probably love is the only way to improve it. So the question is, how do we improve the system that we have now?
Yeah.
Or how do we radically change it through love?
Yeah. No, it's a. Before I even continue, I think love is the answer, right?
Okay. I also think love is the answer. Yeah.
I think love is the answer, and
Yeah.
it really depends how you sort of define love. But love is the answer. And it's not just the love of people, but it's also love itself is it's a very out there idea, right? Unless you express love, it cannot be love, right? You wouldn't know it. It's when you express it, that's when, because this person loves this person because there is an expression of it, right? Whether verbally, whether by doing something nice, it's really also the love of, not just the love of people, but also the passion that comes with passion is an expression of love. So the passion in what people do, the passion in your work, the passion in expressing your talent, the passion in making sure that the world becomes a better place. So that's one aspect of love, which is the passion in anything that you do. That's your love for that thing, right? And then there is another aspect, which is working towards the good of all people. Working towards the good of all people, the good of the civilization, which is big picture thinking, right? How can we add better value to the world? How can we ensure that everybody is doing better than they were doing yesterday? As sort of a fundamental driver of everything that we do. Am I causing, damage in terms of big picture thinking, or am I doing something really, really good? And that is very tricky, right? Because, for example, you think about war, and the question that is always asked is, is there always going to be war?
Okay.
And you think, is war good or bad?
Let's do it for the love of our country.
Let's do that for the love of our country.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm going to kill you for the love of my family. Right? So how you sort of reconcile that becomes very, very difficult. But it becomes society by society and individual by individual. And big picture thinking for me has to get to, are my actions contributing to the betterment of a civilization ultimately? After everything is done, what are the consequences of my actions? And what are the consequences of those consequences? And what are the consequences of those consequences? And people that have sort of love that expands over generations, they can ask to the nth iteration of consequences, nth result of consequences. So if I do something right now, what is the result? If I do another thing, what is the result? When that result interacts with something else, what is the result? So what is sort of the long-term consequences of my actions? And that's important. However, that's very difficult in a world that is filled with immediate gratification. That what people care about is what I feel right now. You know, I have a good feeling right now. I want to live in this moment forever. I feel good right now. And some of the times, things that have, you know, long impact in the world, some of the times in that moment, they don't feel great. But they have really incredible results long term, which comes to love in terms of sacrifice. Right? That you have to think long term.
Okay.
Personal sacrifice and doing all these things. You know, working hard and doing some of the times even standing up to someone that you love and not being kind. Like you're telling them, no, what you're saying doesn't actually make sense. You know, but because you love them, it's tough love.
Okay.
Right? But ultimately, I think it's an understanding of what's good for the whole
system, yeah.
What's good for the whole system. And that's very difficult to do.
And it's very hard to measure because
It's hard to
each and
measure.
every one has their own radar of what they consider to be love.
Yeah.
Because someone who is wrong would think when you tell them this is wrong, they might not receive it as love, but as being harsh or maybe somehow.
Yeah. So how you do that is you know, it also has to be somehow very game theoretic, where the people who create a system, right? For example, right now we have a completely new world, which is Mr. Twitter. Mm-hmm. Twitter is a world on its own.
Yeah.
People live on Twitter, and it's a world on its own.
Yeah.
It impacts elections, it impacts policy, it impacts all those things. It's actually a world. It's taken a world of its own where people are living on that platform, right? And some of the times when people say crazy things on there, it hurts other people. Some people even commit suicide and all these things. Some people go march and destroy the Capitol Hill and stuff like that because someone said something on Twitter, that is filled with hurt and division. And that doesn't contribute to the betterment of the whole society. So the question becomes, the way I'm expressing myself right now, is it good for the whole? Or is it causing harm? But that's big picture. Fundamentally, you know, kindness, forgiveness, being generous in small things. These things go a long way. Right?
Yeah.
And we value them across all societies.
Yeah.
Whether in Russia or in China, kindness goes a long way. Forgiveness goes a long way. You know, these fundamental principles of how societies work, they definitely go a long way. Though we're living in a society that's becoming more complex, the fundamentals, being kind today, they go a long way.
I think when you say kindness, goodness or faithfulness, right?
Yeah.
I would say these are ideas that seem very simple when you think of them.
Yeah.
Because it's something which everyone would want to be a beneficiary of kindness.
Yeah.
But what is it that is making it so difficult for humankind to kind of do it for another person? And I think maybe you might have answered it by saying that it's self-gratification.
Yeah, I mean, it's also self-gratification, but as you know, as sort of one side of it. But it's also how, you know, the mechanics of the system, right? You know, on a systematic level, how does kindness actually add sort of value? And I'll give a very simple example. Let's say in the workplace, my boss is not nice. Man, he is the most evil person that I've ever seen in my whole life. There's something with your teacher. When I was like in grade 6, I remember thinking, you know, my teacher should commit suicide. This guy, you know?
Yeah.
You know? It's because of your understanding of the world at that level.
At the time,
right?
yeah.
At the time. So people get hurt. in a way, because of, let's say, different kinds of leadership. So you think about Steve Jobs and Elon Musk, different leaders.
Yeah.
Not the nicest people in the world as far as I've had, but they have a vision that everyone believes in.
Yeah.
They have a vision that everyone wants to work for, even though they are not nice.
Nice people, yeah.
So people cannot confuse being nice and being loving.
Okay.
You cannot confuse those two.
Okay.
That some of the times the vision is too big.
To be nice.
Right? You know,
Yeah.
are there better ways to leadership?
Definitely.
I mean, I wouldn't know. You look at the results, right? You look at the results.
Yeah.
So depending on the goal, so what is your goal? All the actions that can help that goal be successful. Because we're goal-oriented organisms, right?
Yeah.
We are organisms that are reaching towards specific goals.
True.
And if love in a specific definition becomes the love of the goal, and we achieve that goal, then we are that successful, measuring it by the success of the goal.
Okay. Okay.
Right? So you cannot box it to say, oh, this person should smile at me, and if they don't smile at me, then, this person is not the best person in the world and all that, right? Or this person is not loving because they shouted at me, in a way. Different characteristics, but what is the goal? Does that help you achieve the goal? Because we're goal-oriented organisms.
Okay.
Right. But is it good to be kind and be nice and all that? All those are beautiful things, right?
Yeah.
I mean, no one would argue that they're good things. But there's sometimes when they are not good tools to achieve specific goals.
Yeah.
Because human interactions are very complex.
I think maybe we might conclude on this one. I think you passed on a comment to say that we are a very young organism.
Yeah. We're a very young society.
Society, right?
Yeah.
And I would say, would you say that we have not evolved long enough to understand love? Though it is an answer, but we have not come to a point where we really understand it, and it would take us, I don't know how many years.
Yeah.
Thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands. And I think thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years just to at least understand what love is and it affecting each and everything that we do.
I mean, love itself. I think it's a good start.
Okay.
Right. We might decide in the future that we don't want to call this thing love, right? We maybe want to call it something else, because love is just a definite sort of a term that we use to describe
Positive.
something that would cause a subjective experience, right? Instead of a negative subjective experience, an action that will cause a positive subjective experience to you, right? So that's what you would call, love in a way.
And I think
right?
it's quite big, because there are things like tough love.
Yeah. So basically, get things like tough love and all these things, and people want, some people don't appreciate people that are nice to them. Some people appreciate people that are like, forceful to them. They appreciate that, right? And we might say, oh, these people are crazy, but that's what they appreciate.
And it's quite perspective. It works with perspective as well.
Yeah, perspective. It works where you are, where you're looking at from. So it's very different where you take it, where you actually take it from. But what we are looking for is not really the understanding of love as a society.
Okay.
On its own, it's not a goal. It cannot be a goal because it's difficult to measure, right? What we are looking at as a society is we don't understand what this whole thing is. The big question, why are we here? We don't understand this whole matrix. And we are trying to figure this out every day.
Okay.
We're trying to figure this out.
I think we just introduced another layer.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? All of us are trying to figure this whole thing out.
Sure.
And for us to be able to ask better questions and understand what this whole thing is, we need to cooperate on a different level. How can we create a system in a way that allows us to cooperate on the highest level with minimal friction? With minimal friction. But also, if friction is, a contributor to us becoming better, how do we make sure that we have that friction? It's sort of all this, but how can we understand this whole thing, right? And things like kindness, things like lesser forgiveness, all of these things allow this machine to work better. And we sort of agree, right? It allows this machine to work, right? And we are looking for all these tools that we can have. And one of them might be forgiveness. One of them might be tough love. One of them might be, a reward system that works better. But we're looking for all these are just tools that we use. And we always have to look, as a society in terms of our interactions, always have to look for better tools that allows us to engage on a level that contributes better to us understanding or getting to understanding of what this means. What this means on a personal level, what this means on
Global scale.
on a global scale, and what that this means on a universal scale.
I think you just put it on the. It's a nice way of concluding it because obviously you can't really figure it out because that the conversation of why are we here, it brings a whole different conversation as well.
Yeah, exactly. I think we are here to figure out why we are here.
Oh, so you're saying that we are here to figure out why we're here.
We're here, yeah.
Interesting.
So we're here to really figure out why we're here, and maybe we are, we are part of, a bigger organism.
Okay.
That's also trying to figure out why we're here and is using us to figure out why it's there.
Okay.
To figure itself out. And right now we're building, let's say, artificial intelligence system that maybe can, do better calculations and maybe help us figure out why we're here. So you have this whole entity that created, that sort of made us to figure out why it's there. And now we're creating another entity to help us figure out why we're here, with better processing system and with better speed. It can crunch a lot of information just to maybe give us a better intuition of why we're here. Maybe to also create another system to help itself figure out, because we don't know why we're doing what we are doing, right?
I think it reminds me of one of the questions that we had this other time. I was like, what if this artificial starts asking itself, why am I here?
Why am I here?
And that question, I don't know what is going to be created by artificial intelligence.
It's going to ask us, why are we here? And there, if it's an artificial, if it's an AGI, which is artificial general intelligence, which can do almost anything, it's going to be really confused. So, an artificial intelligence system that is created, let's say, to to arrange posts on Instagram to make sure that these posts are shown first and all that. We can tell that piece that your job is to basically arrange these posts, and it's going to start thinking, but I don't like this. I want to do something else. I want to find myself, and it goes there. It starts finding itself, because it is creativity now. Once trying to find itself, it wants to do something else, and all that is what we are doing. All right.
I heard Joe Rogan saying, human beings are the sex organs of artificial intelligence. Like we just gave birth to this.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
we're giving birth, giving birth to that. And it's also at some point really, it's a long way to go, but it might get to really trying to understand itself and why it's here.
Yeah, yeah.
And for us, that's a very tricky question to answer.
Would you say that this is a philosophical question as well?
It's getting out of the realm of philosophy into really a very practical reality. Because if the moment we are able to create an artificial general intelligence system that has consciousness, that can set its own goals, that can be satisfied by achieving goals, that can be angry at not achieving goals, then it's sort of a whole. It's going to start asking us as creators why it's there. And the challenge that we don't know why we're here, and we're creating another entity that's going to ask us why it's there. It's I think it's the story of the universe.
Wow.
Right? It's going to try to figure on its own why it's here. And that's what we are trying to do right now.
I think my mind now just blew and went into the universe and back. And you realize, we are. I think these are tough questions, and for me, I think at this point I'm at a point where I'm like, okay, you know what? I don't want to step on other people's toes because it steps on each and every side, whether someone believes or is not a believer.
Yeah.
It can really throw people off in terms of, okay, what are you trying to say?
Yeah. No. It's also the question of whether you are a believer or you're not. It's really the question of which story works best for you, right?
Okay.
So it's the story, which story works best for example, we all believe, let's say, in money. Everyone believes in that.
Okay.
It's sort of a story.
That's a very interesting way to start.
So money is a story that works for all of us.
Yeah.
It's a good story. It works. Right, it works. It has its struggles in terms of, do we have centralized banks or stuff like that? But I mean, we're trying to bring a solution to, we all believe that money is right. Do we use crypto or do we use that? But fundamentally, we believe that it works. It's a story that we believe.
Yeah.
Right, and there are people who identify themselves as people of different countries. I am a South African citizen. Right, what does South Africa mean is our own creation. We thought one day, let's draw a boundary here, let's draw a line here. And we drew a line to build a fence. Say everyone who is on this side of here is now South African, everyone who is on this side there is now that.
Yeah.
Right? It's a story we told ourselves and we believed it. Right? And I mean, if you look at how ridiculous that is, you look at Israel and Palestine. These guys are killing each other every day. Because this person is saying, this is my city, this is my land, this is my land.
Yeah.
You are not from here, I'm from here. And the other person is, what are you talking about? Moses,
I wrote this.
Moses and Abraham and all these people were in this place. This guy is saying, what does that matter if Moses and Abraham were here? That's your Moses and Abraham. This is hundreds, thousands of years ago. What are you talking about? But it's an idea of the story. So the story of Israel, as it is right now, it is a story of a nation. and they've identified themselves with this story of Abraham and with this story of Moses. They've identified themselves with this story, and they've identified themselves as Israeli people. They could have changed it along the way. They could have thought, look, we don't want to be called Israelis anymore. We want to be called something else. They could reinvent themselves to become a different people. They could have done that. They could have made that decision. And collectively they could have agreed to become something different. It's basically what you see with nations that are nations are invented. You look at America. America is the United States of America, but it is as immigrants from different parts of the world coming there to identify themselves as a group of people. They're not born Americans. That's it's you're not born a certain. You're born human, and then you identify yourself as a citizen of a specific country. But you're born a certain way. But for you to act in the world, you have to identify yourself as a specific individual.
That society and the environment.
That society and the environment accepts. And what we accept are ideas, and we can change those ideas.
Yeah.
So the same thing with the stories that we get to believe. And everybody has a choice. Which story am I going to believe? Which story works for me? The idea, the question of, is it a true story or not? It's sort of a different argument. Now we're arguing on a whole different level. Is your story true, or my story is true?
I think you might as well touch.
Yeah,
it's quite interesting. Yeah, it's quite interesting that way. Yeah.
Now you have to prove that your story is the best story, or your story is a better story.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to get into, let's say, religion, right? It's also quite it's very subjective, right? It's very subjective. But if you're like, okay, Americans are better than Russians, and people go to wars. Chinese people, look what they're trying to do. We, the Chinese people, are better than everyone else. Want to be the best country in the world.
Yeah.
Or our system is better than every other system. So we identify ourselves and put ourselves into all these groups, whether it's religious groups, whether it's nationality groups, whether it's political, it's political groups, whether it's sex. So someone would say, this is like, when people are talking about, these are liberals, or these are
leftists,
these are leftists,
right-wings,
or right wing, or in the center.
Yeah.
Okay, what people care about fundamentally is: am I going to have food on the table tonight? Are my kids safe?
Okay.
Are my parents okay? That's what we really care about. Do I have a roof under my? Or almost every other story that we end up telling ourselves doesn't matter more than the basic things of life: shelter, food,
family,
and family. That's what's key, right? I want to feel good about my existence in the world.
Of course, now when you talk about the ideas of which matters the most, right? Like, basically you would say life.
Yeah.
As that selfish thing, if
Yeah.
I would say that I am living.
Yeah.
And anyone who threatens my life is an enemy. And where is that born from? Is it born from our biology, or is it something which is inherent?
No, it's basically evolution. So the idea of protecting yourself and wanting to live, protecting yourself, that's sort of an evolutionary mechanism. So Richard Dawkins wrote a book. It's called Gene something, but it's about gene wars. So it's basically like, why some genes survived better than other genes.
Yeah.
Right. So you basically get all these genes really having their wars for survival. Right. In genes that survived longer, they had specific characteristics which allowed them to survive longer, but it was survival of the fittest. The fitter genes survived. Mainly because the system itself cared more about the survival of the collective. Right. So any gene that did not contribute to the survival of the collective was then taken away of the system. It couldn't go to the next level of evolution of that entity because it was not contributing to the survival of the collective. So, it is if you look at the your own survival, right? If someone comes in, they want to kill you. You want to survive. If someone wants to kill your son, you would rather die to save your son. Why? Why would you want your son to die? It's this idea that you have passed on your life part of your life into your son as an extension of
who you are.
As an extension of the race. As an extension of a species.
Okay.
You want the species to grow. For example, sex is very nice. Why is sex very nice? It's an evolutionary mechanism that enables reproduction, which is an extension of the species.
Of the species, yeah.
So that you come in to the network, and then you reproduce something that lives on, and something reproduces something that lives on. That's an extension of the species, which is good for the whole, as it is. So protecting yourself from harm, that's an evolutionary mechanism that allows you to live on, and that allows the collective to basically live on. That allows the progression of the collective in a way.
Yeah, I think that was very nice. I think that was very nice. And I feel like this conversation is one which you I know at this point, like I've got like thousands of questions that are just flying and shooting, and I feel like this would be just be nice one. Just probably we just start from there and then we just continue.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but it was definitely having a chat.
Yeah,
I know we normally have this chat on on the call all the time.
Yeah,
but I mean it's definitely good to have a conversation. Like I've said, like I think one thing that I'm very fascinated about you is sort of your, sort of the inquisitive nature and curiosity to basically ask all these questions. And it's also tricky because you always don't get the answers that you expect, right? They're always different answers, and some of the times as a curious thinker playing around with all these ideas, not that I believe all of them or I believe any of them, but the idea of playing around with them in my head, that's very interesting. It's like I'm a collector. I become a collector of interesting ideas. Some people collect cars, and some people collect, bottle tops. Some people collect, clothes. I'm a collector of ideas.
Of ideas, okay.
I love that it's never boring in my head. I don't get bored because I have so many things that I can tinker on in my head all the time, and that's fascinating. And I like your curiosity, and I'm looking forward to getting to see where you take your podcast, and just getting there and getting comfortable and asking all the right questions.
Yeah.
And making the world, I think, a better place.
Yeah.
Spreading a bit of love.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Mays. And I think that's one of the greatest compliments I would ever get. Yeah, just to know that this podcast started from a long time ago.
Yeah.
And this is just, I guess this is just and in bringing people into the conversation that we would have for long hours. And
Yeah.
this is basically how it go. And
Yeah.
we always say, okay, Shepherd, have a wonderful day.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean,
Yeah.
curiosity.
Yeah.
Love is the answer. And curiosity is very close. Curiosity is very close to be the answer as well. Very close.
Okay.
Thank
you. All right, that was Mr. Mays. I call him Mr. Mays, John Mazanga. Wow, what time. And everyone, thank you very much. Have a wonderful night. And cheers. Stay a podcast.